All right. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you for joining me, TumbleweedX. So, this is going to be the first video in a series of videos over the next few weeks. I'm going to be conducting interviews and speaking with people in regards to the whole Uber debacle, gig work, but more focused with Uber. And what I mean by that is that I'm going to go into depth interviews with people that have been through issues with them, as well as myself. Talk a little bit about that today. We're going to get their point of view, how the interaction went, how it could have been better, what Uber's responses were. And it's not just drivers. This is going to be done from a ground perspective. So we're going to be speaking to both drivers and riders. And I want to get an honest, open, evidentiary opinion from each person out there. Everything that they say can and will be proved if needed. In some cases, we'll just show the receipts. So, without further ado, got some notes here. So, the introduction, first thing I want to do is talk about just overall what's coming up these next few weeks, okay? We're going to be covering many different forms of interview style, as well as informative of evidence to be showing you. We'll be talking to the drivers and the riders in regards to a lot of things. One of the things that's really kind of a big thing that's known out there already, it's been, even Wall Street Journal wrote about it, is the tips and trips. So Uber was shortchanging people on their tips. Drivers are receiving tips. So if you do use the Uber app, or even the Lyft app, or any app, of a majority at one point, the tips were being withheld. In some cases, some of the drivers are having their tips stolen completely. They never received them. I have one associate that I drive with that I know, who in particular, he still to this day still receives tips a week later, like in a bulk. So he may not get any tips for 2, 3, 4 days, right? But then when they do their reset on a Sunday night, early Monday morning, they reset. For those of you who don't know, early Monday mornings, what happens is it resets, and it'll go into what they call an automatic deposit. So if you have money sitting in an account or sitting in your Uber account as a driver, and it approaches that point on Sunday to Monday, they just send the money to your account. It takes a day or two to get there in some cases. But he'll receive a whole, like, couple $100. And at one time, I remember him going like, oh my God, look at he got like $600 all in one. And it was like when you go and you look it up in his account, like he'd open it up and see what it was just miscellaneous deposits. He contacted him several times. I actually put it on speaker a couple times while I was there. And they were just like, oh, and they told him, these are the balances of tips that were not given to you date of. But that's great and all, but how do we know for a fact that those are the tips? He would have to go back into each transaction he made, and he did it one time. And he added it all up over the week. And they still, at the end of the week, when they send the money, he was short. And when he contacted them and let them know, and he went through and he had the numbers, and it was getting transferred, didn't transfer. It was like he got transferred 3 times. They did pay him some, but they did not admit to any wrongdoing. Other times we've seen it, Wall Street Journal, several other major newspaper outlets have written about this because there were several people, notable people out there that have influence in the news media world. Were told by Uber drivers they weren't receiving their tips, and they showed them. And so one of them worked for a major news outlet, and he wrote an article on it. And he made calls and tried to reach out and everything. It's pretty funny. If I can find that article, I shouldn't have too much trouble. You can look it up yourself, but if anything else, I'll try to put it in the links below. I'll try to put that link in below So you can see that article. It was really funny because it hit all the podcasters and all the not major news media outlets, but it hit a few of them. This has been ongoing, and this has been something that everybody knows. And we just, drivers, riders, all kind of put it out in the back of their mind now because they feel, oh, there's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. Well, there is something you can do. If you're a rider, pay your driver in cash. And I know some people be like, I don't carry cash, I don't like cash, I don't want cash. Okay, well, I get it. But you know what? You can Cash App them. You can Zelle it to them. Just a thought, okay? We're going to interview some people, talk about that, but that's real, okay? The other thing we're talking about is unfair practices. So it's a sad thing because what I mean by unfair practices is it's such a wide, expansive topic. But that topic needs to be talked about extensively, just thoroughly, because Uber, since 2017, David Khosrowshahi took over as CEO of Uber. Since that point, we have seen so many policy changes, some contradicting previous policy changes that were made. Others just straight cost saving. We know, understood, business is business, but some of them have caused unnecessary and undue harm. As a driver, you're considered, quote unquote, you're considered a private contractor, you know. But yet, if you read their messages and their emails and everything they send out to the drivers, they want you to believe you're an employee. The way they speak directly to you. They have these councils and all these, like out here where I live in the Phoenix, Arizona area, they always have these like, these are your team members. They're your leads. They're your people on the street with you. They're drivers. Now, you hear a lot about people talking about police officers and everything, and there's people, oh, you bootlickers and everything. You know what? I kind of want to throw dirt and mud in that direction of these people. If you were really representing the drivers, represent them. I understand you might be a driver, but you're not representing the drivers if you're not bringing to light the grievances. If you're not bringing to light to Uber, to the representatives, whatever, because they say supposedly these people are elected. No, they're chosen. And they're chosen because of unfair practices. They have high acceptance rates. They have 0 to no cancellations. They just take everything. And I'm going to get into that as an unfair as well. What I'm talking about is cherry picking. If you, as a driver, cherry pick your rides, which means you're not going to take a ride that calls you to go 40 miles, okay, in one direction for $20. I mean, explain that to me. It's 50 cents a mile. Sorry, hit the microphone. In no manner of way does that make any sense. It doesn't even, I mean, you've got maintenance, you've got wear and tear on your vehicle, you've got fuel costs, insurance costs, payment costs. You got to make a certain amount of money just to break even. 50 cents a mile is not it. Taxis don't even charge 50 cents a mile. The taxis are generally well over $2 to $3 a mile. That's just a taxi. And a lot of these cars and vehicles you're getting into, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are much nicer, okay, than getting into a taxi. But that's unfair because they're being punished for cherry picking. They're having people put into positions that are supposedly representing them to Uber, but they're not because they're being chosen by Uber. Not by the drivers, by Uber. And then they're giving their marching orders. And if any drivers come to them, yeah, they're going to forward that information on to Uber. They're going to forward on who the driver is that's complaining. They're going to forward on the complaint. And hey, you know, I'm not saying anything from that point forward, but you put one and one together. You figure out what's happening. Because some of the drivers that I'm going to interview were people who went to those team members that are part of those street teams. Your team on the street driving with you in your regions, you'll hear from people about how after talking to these people, it got worse. And I'll let them best explain it rather than myself right now. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was going back to the David Khosrowshahi thing. He took over as CEO in 2017. And he took over at a tumultuous time where this former CEO was a founder, and there was rampant running throughout Uber. It was affecting everything, the investors, everybody, because of insinuations of sexual misconduct, of just general workplace misconduct. And I'll be honest with you, rightfully so. Yeah, there was a lot of immaturity to it. There was a lot of not so professional action. And this guy came in, but you have to understand his background and where he came from. Do your research on this guy, David Khosrowshahi. Once you do your research on him, you'll see where I'm going with this. He came in and immediately changes he made were just cuts. And there were cuts to where they could start making ground back and getting into the profit. And piece by piece, he was making these cuts. One of the biggest cuts he made within 3 years, actually within 2 years, was closing the green light hubs. Green light hubs were in every major area. So here in Arizona, we had one. They had one here. They had one in the Phoenix area for the entire state. Understood. Population density didn't dictate having one up north or one down in Tucson. Gotcha. But even out in, let's say, California, you have the San Francisco Bay Area. They closed down the green light hub in San Jose, which is South Bay. They call it the South Bay. That San Jose hub served all of Santa Clara County, Santa Cruz, Monterey County, San Benito County, South Santa Clara County. And the next green light hub was clear up north in San Francisco. And that one serves, part of the peninsula that the San Jose didn't, because most of the people from like Redwood City south, they could pretty much make a decision to go north or south. They closed that one. Now understand, San Jose is a population of over 1.4 million people, just that city. Now you had, south of them, you had Blossom Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, Gilroy, Hollister, Monterey County, which is Salinas, Monterey Seaside, Carmel, all those areas. Santa Cruz County, you had Capitola, Watsonville, Santa Cruz Mountains. You had all those areas, Mountain View, Los Altos, parts of Palo Alto, Los Gatos. All these people that were driving, but they shut that down. Well, they shut it down in Arizona too. One green hub, they shut it down. So now there's none in the state. There used to be one up in Vegas, so everybody would drive 4 hours to go there. Because trying to get helped through the automated system, in the app, on the phones, if you could get through to a phone, remember at that point, David had already offshored all the call centers. At that point, he had already offshored them. So you're either going to be getting a hold of people in India, the Philippines, or South America. Take of it what you will with that. But, there's a lot of times it's been shown, told, talked about, there is a communication barrier. People not understanding each other. The other issue is the automated, just texting, once again, communication. Documents, everything. It's hard. And sometimes these drivers, it would be difficult for them because they're trying to stay on platform and they're trying to stay within policies and within rules, and their timelines would run out before they could get everything approved. So they'd have to go into losing a week or two of driving. And some of them decided this is what it was, so they drove full time. We had a lot of immigrants, legal immigrants too. There's something about that I'm going to be talking about as well. They had their own barrier, their own communication barrier with language. Could have been if there was a person in front of them. Yeah, anyways, you get in the point. Once again, I'm just kind of touching on top, a little more expansion of what we're going to cover in the next oncoming weeks in detail with interviews with people, experiences, all these things, okay? So he offshored the call centers, made it difficult for communication. He closed down all the green light hubs or in-person places where you can go to get your car inspected, you can get your paperwork done, get your approvals, denials, your appeals. He closed it all down. He's now slowly taking the company and putting it a race to the bottom. They've implemented AI algorithms. The AI algorithm was programmed to race to the bottom. So they implemented this thing called a trip radar. The trip radars work as follows. Rider over here hails a ride from Uber. They're told they're going to pay $15 for the ride. There are 5 drivers within a proximity. Some drivers are closer, some others drivers are further. The algorithm recognizes the drivers. The algorithm says, this guy accepts everything. This guy cherry picks. This one accepts half. This guy accepts some. That guy, he completely only wants a high-end dollar. He's got an extremely low acceptance rate, whatever. It sends all 5 of them a trip radar. Remember, the riders said in advance, Uber told them, you're paying $15. That guy that only accepts the actual real profitable rides per mileage, time-wise, knows his numbers, can calculate quickly, they're going to send him a trip radar. It's not a, oh, you got a ride. It's like you have a possibility of a ride. It goes off, it blinks, makes a noise. It says, look, we're willing to pay you $12. That's really good, right? You know the percentages. Second rider, the next rider, they're going to offer them $10.50, $10, $9.50, $8 for that super high acceptance rate. If all 5 of them press match it, because they have the only thing it says is match. If you want to be matched to that ride, you press match. The algorithm recognizes and gives it to the cheapest. They are shopping you as a driver to the rider to maximize their profit. Because if they can pay him $8, they know they're going to maximize that amount. Now, that's not considering the fact that they already know they're going to take between 60 and 70% of the ride. So let's be realistic. If they're charging him $15, okay, they're going to take 70% of that ride. Quick math, who can tell me? Yeah, it's over $10. So they're going to offer guys $4 or $5. And it's not a joke. There has been, especially in the summers out here, the cheapest ride I saw was $2.19. I saw a guy, I'm standing there, and his goes off, and one of the other guys that we were talking with, or there was a group of like 4 of us, and they were on a certain level on the platform. His was $3.57. This guy's was $2.19. Same ride. Uber is very unfair by using the algorithms, but I mean, I get it. But these are systems that have been implemented by this individual who's now the CEO that took over in 2017, David Kushishai. Okay, it's all about maximizing and trying to get the company to profit. I get it. I invest. I have portfolio. Most people do have some form of a 401k or a Roth IRA, something. I get it. And you have investments and you want to see profits. You want to see that investment grow. But at what cost? Because at this point, we're seeing the cost be literally human life. Because the biggest impact, you think that's bad, the biggest impact that we've seen since 2020 is actually the influx of whatever you choose to call these people that came across the border illegally. So, and where I'm leading to is this: Uber failing their own policies and to follow immigration law. I will be linking videos from guys like Mike Drop Barbecue, from Sergio, from Ride Professor, people like that on YouTube. I will be linking videos that shows and proves they had video proof of it happening. were people who were here without driver's licenses, without documentation. They were renting accounts, legitimate Uber accounts. They're renting legitimate Uber accounts. They're renting cars. They don't even have a driver's license, but they're renting the cars. They're utilizing those accounts and they're picking people up and dropping them off every day. And here at the airports, and it started up again here at Phoenix Sky Harbor. They're doing it again. They stopped for a while when they got busted the first time. They busted an entire ring of Hondurans and Somalians that were running that. No, I'm sorry, Nigerians, not Somalians. Nigerians. And it was a handful of them, but still, the Hondurans too. But they would have 15, 20 phones, all of them with different various accounts, and they'd have them in the queues at the airports. And these guys would go and pick up a ride, take and drop it, and they would rush back to the airport, and they would hand that phone in, and the next ride that comes in, they're in line, they'd hand that phone to the next guy. They'd hand that phone to the next guy, go get that ride, go get that ride, go get that ride. They were gaming the system, and they're doing it again. We're seeing it here in the airports, here in Phoenix Sky Harbor. We're hearing about it in places like Orlando, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Francisco, International, as well as Oakland. We're also hearing about it at places like back east and the Northeast, at those airports as well. These are the failures, and these are the unfair treatment from Uber in not doing the right thing, not following the law, not following their own policies. So be ready. This week we'll be coming out with a couple of videos of doing the interviews, showing the proof, showing the receipts, okay? It's going to be coming in pretty consistently, because I want to try to get this all out there over the next couple, 2-3 weeks, so that we can see if any of this is happening in more areas amongst more drivers, okay? So until then, thank you for watching. If you find any value in this, get any entertainment in this content, give us a thumbs up, like, and share. The algorithm recognizes it when you do that. Thank you.